Hi, I'm Alessia Olhava.
I'm Maya Barber.
Emily Warren.
I'm Ashley Plezak.
And I'm Annie Farmer.
And we're talking about the Texas South dialect. So everyone has heard of a Southern accent, and to us in the Midwest, it sounds drastically different than the way we speak. However, within the category of Southern dialects, there's a specific state that sounds different from the rest. This is the Texas South dialect. The most noticeable difference between a normal Southern dialect and a Texas dialect is the way vowels are pronounced. Flattened vowels are a huge factor of what make a Texas accent so distinctive. A simple example that we will go into detail later in the presentation is the word night, pronounced as night. This Texas twang is spreading among the younger generation into urban settings. In order to understand the Texas South dialect, it is important to analyze the background of where it came from. This specific dialect is interesting because it is a mix of regional dialects. It combines characteristics of German, Czech, and Latino immigrants. The mix of dialects came from Louisiana, Alabama, and Mississippi, bringing the lower Southern dialect and settlers from Tennessee and Kentucky, who brought the South Midland dialect to Texas. These, mixed with large Spanish-speaking population of Texas, created its own dialect different from the rest of the South. The Texas dialect is very popular among the older rural population, but as of recently, the Texas twang is increasing in population. The younger generation is picking up on the dialect and spreading it into urban areas.
However, speaking in a Texas accent is not socially acceptable in every setting. Texas speakers tend to stifle their way of speaking in order to sound more educated and professional, but Southern hospitality may be a way of sounding more personal. Specifically, the Texas South dialect uses the word y'all. Those in Texas will use the word y'all, referring to you all when talking in large crowds. The word soda or Coke is used over the word pop, and howdy is a term used as a greeting rather than a hello or hi. Here is a video of a Texas accent.
Texas is big. So there are a lot of different kinds of accents in Texas. So we're going to work on a general Texas accent. What's the oral posture of a general Texas accent? Well, there's a lot of bunching in the back of the tongue. The back of the tongue is braced up against the back molars, and the opening in the back of the throat is so small that sometimes you get that nasal, twangy sound that you hear right now.
Did I try? Let's see. Now we are going to describe in more detail 3 specific phonetic/phonological features unique to this language variety: the flattened monophthong, vowel merging, and fronted vowels. In these 3 features, we are focused on the actual movements needed to produce speech sounds. This is called articulatory phonetics. Articulatory phonetics is talking about how and where in the vocal tract these sounds of the Texas South are being produced. Okay, one of the most common examples of this is flattening of monophthongs. The Texan South dialect takes diphthongs and drops the second sound to create a monophthong. The production can be achieved by tightening the jaw and raising the back of your tongue to flatten it. This will give us the H sound. With this production, the articulation process for producing these diphthongs mashes them together, making all the vowels sound similar. The flattening is what drops the second sound and allows the listener to hear the H sound. An example of this would be the word swipe, which we can see in the next slide, changes to swipe. And then a few other examples would be day changing to day. And then in this video I'm going to show, we can listen to a Texas speaker. In the first, we're going to listen for light.
A rainbow. The rainbow is a division of white light into many.
As you can hear the way she says light, she adds an H sound and drops the second sound in the diphthong. Another example is going to be the way she pronounces the word time and day.
For the longest time that it was maybe Sunday when they were all in church. But anyway, somebody broke into the jail and took all the money. They got in there and they robbed the bank, literally robbed it. And
What year was this?
well, this is dated Saturday, June 13th, 1870.
So there was a couple examples in there when she would say the days of the week, and you could hear the way she pronounces the day at the end of the sound. When listening, you can hear how the second sound is dropped, and this is a very common example of Texan dialects.
So I'm going to talk about the vowel merger next. A vowel merger is a blending of vowel sounds. An example we talked about in class was caught and caught, and how some people may pronounce them similarly. More Texans are now blurring their vowels, especially those who were born after 1972. In Texas, there's a combination of the Southern shift as well as the third dialect, which makes it unique. The Southern shift has characteristics such as a long I sound turned into an ah sound. So, for example, side sounds like sod. The third dialect is common in a lot of the West. It is characterized by the merger that we discussed earlier, caught and caught. This particular merger is interesting because it signals there may be a movement of the phonological system away from the Southern shift pattern. Tense and lax vowel pairs may also be merged. For example, pool, which has a tense vowel, and pole, that has a lax vowel, may sound similar. A common vowel merger in the South that is found in Texas is the pin-pen merger. The eh sound is raised to an ih sound. Here's a picture of the vowel chart that we've looked at in class, with the words pen and pin incorporated. This gives us a visual representation of the fact that the pronunciation eh in pen is raised to an is sound to make it sound like the word pen and pin. Another example are the words when and win, which may have the vowel sounds such as pin and pen. When may sound like win. Next, here's a map that shows where this merger occurs. The red dots show where the merger occurs in both production and perception. So this means this is how they both pronounce and hear the word. They pronounce pen and pin similarly, and they also perceive or hear it similarly. The green dots show that there's a distinction in the production of the two words. We see many red dots in the South, including Texas.
What are fronted vowels? Front vowels are those where the highest point in the tongue is raised anteriorly toward the hard palate. Front vowels are one of the three categories of tongue advancement, in this case, tongue frontness. When dealing with the Texan language variety, the oo sound is produced in a fronted manner. This means that they pronounce a single vowel with the tongue and lips in a fixed position toward the front of the mouth. An example of this would be in what we pronounce as food. They would pronounce it as food. The same thing applies to the example of shoe, which they would pronounce it as shoe.
There are several factors that differentiate Texas South from the traditional Southern accent. Flattened monophthongs, fronted vowels, and vowel merging all play into making the Texas South accent special. Extending the diphthong in the word time can get pronounced as time. Similarly, the word why may sound like two syllables in why. And the most clear distinction of Texas South is the use of the word y'all. Thanks, y'all, for listening. Here's our bibliography.